Hey everyone, today's guest talks about how she turned her cancer diagnosis into a successful business where she specifically aimed to give back to the organizations that helped her through her cancer diagnosis. Her story is emotional, it's inspirational, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear it because she's also one of my first friends in the business community. So stay tuned in and get ready to learn about Allana Randall. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Screw It, Let's Do This podcast. I'm your host, Therese. Today, Shelby is busy in the bakery, so you have me, only me, and our guest for today, which is Allana Randall. Woo! She has, you guys, an incredible business, which if you're watching the YouTube video right now, you'll see some of her products in front of us and behind us. But I met Allana a couple years ago at a market in Madison, and I'll pass it over to her to talk a little bit about her business and also her background. You guys, she has kind of a wild story. So we're going to get into it. So Allana, thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks for having me, Therese.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm the owner of 10 by 10 Gallery, which is a small business that specializes in like stickers and prints and art. And I donate back to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society for everything that I sell. So a portion of all my proceeds are donated. And I do a lot of markets around Madison. I've been doing murals, kind of just a lot of different stuff.
Yeah. You're an incredible artist. I've seen you make stuff on the fly. I've seen you like sketch on the fly. I mean, I have no idea how anyone even gets to be that good, but it's really incredible. So can we talk there's a lot to talk about, obviously, like with your business and how much you've given back to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, but tell us where you grew up, how you got into art. When did you get into art? Let's start there.
Yeah, I'm from Madison originally. So I grew up here and I've always loved art for as long as I can remember. I've been like creative and artistic and just doing it for fun, though. I never really expected anything to come from that. So it was a hobby for me. And I ended up majoring at UW-Madison in Spanish and communication sciences. So I wasn't really planning on going into art at all.
Wow.
But I don't know, it kind of happened to me. I'm really happy to be an artist now. So
yeah, so you didn't do any school, like prior training, quote unquote training?
No,
for
it's
art.
all self-taught.
Wow. So, growing up, did you just paint all the time or what was your thing?
I did all sorts of stuff. I was really crafty. So it was usually not like drawing like what I do now. It was a lot of like making cute little things. And I like to try a lot of different stuff. And so I think that helped me a little bit with my business because I've been able to grow and do more than just painting. So a little bit of everything growing up too.
Wow, that's amazing. So now, okay, talk to us a little bit about, so you love art, you went to school not for art, and then what happened after college? Like, what did you do? Tell us about that. Like after you had your degree, what did you go off to do? You went to pursue what you actually went to school for?
I didn't. I got a TOEFL certification for teaching English as a foreign language.
Oh, wow.
From the Wisconsin ESL Institute. And then I went and taught abroad in Taiwan for about a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Okay.
So,
that's wild. What made you choose Taiwan?
I had a friend that I knew there who owns some schools. So I went to go work for her. And then I ended up switching schools and I really loved the country a lot. So I stayed for a while. I probably would have stayed a lot longer too, but my time got cut short.
Yeah. So can we talk about that? Whatever you feel comfortable sharing. I know your story because I met Allana, you guys, a couple years ago at a market, and I loved your booth because it was so bright and cute. If anyone has seen her, if anyone that's watching or listening has seen Allana's stuff at the market, it's very obvious when you see it. It's probably one of the best booths I've seen, on the high end of booths.
Oh, thanks.
And I remember I stopped by and I talked to you and I was like, so tell me about like what your business is. And you had said a portion of all your proceeds go to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society because you were diagnosed with, can you go into that story about like your time in Taiwan and what happened there? Yeah,
so I was diagnosed with lymphoma while I was living in Taiwan. I probably had it for like almost a year before I knew that I had lymphoma.
No way.
Yeah. I had symptoms for a while, but I kind of just thought it was because I was in a new place. So I was like losing weight. I had a cough.
Oh gosh.
And just really tired. But I was thinking, and being in a different country, maybe that's why I'm feeling these things. So I let it go for way too long. And then eventually I saw a specialist.
In Taiwan?
In Taiwan. Yeah.
So was that your only doctor visit in Taiwan? You're like, hey, something's off. What's up?
No.
Oh gosh.
No,
okay.
I had a lot.
that was the one what they're like, they didn't catch it the other times. They didn't test for it.
No.
I mean, why would they?
No, I had bronchitis and they were like, oh, maybe it's that. And the doctors were amazing. Like the healthcare system's so good there. So it was definitely me. It wasn't like anyone was being neglectful of me. It just took a while to see the right person. And I eventually saw a specialist at a hospital and I had a biopsy there. And then I had a lot of other procedures done there. So, and got the diagnosis of probably lymphoma. And then I moved home for the official diagnosis.
And how old were you at that point?
I was 23, I believe.
So that probably never, ever crossed your mind.
No, definitely not.
Hearing that when I met you definitely brought tears to my eyes. I don't know.
I remember that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's really funny because I was like, I don't know if you remember that I had cried on the spot when I met you. But I mean, just like a lot of older people get cancer. Not a lot of younger people do. Both my parents had it. So that's where I was like, oh my gosh. But so that's hands down the most jarring news that you could ever get at 23.
Yeah.
And so you hear that news, you cut your time short in Taiwan. I can't even imagine what was going on in your head. Do you even remember like what was going on in your head when you, came back home? Like,
I was really confused, obviously. The doctors told me what they thought it was. Wasn't like, it was very treatable. So that was something that I was like, okay, hopefully that's true. But I had to go get the official diagnosis. And I ended up traveling to Vietnam for like a week and then I came home.
Oh,
I took a little vacation first.
Wow.
Yeah, because
you were just like, well,
screw it, let's do this, right?
My gosh. That's wild. Oh my gosh. I could dive into that all day. Just, hearing about that experience is unimaginable. So you come back home though, that happens, you start getting treatment. That's when you kind of got into art more. I read your About Me. So that was kind of like one of your coping mechanisms, right? Was getting into art. So you're at the doctor, you're getting treatment and you're just like, hand me a notepad. I need to draw. Or like, how did that work?
So I had chemo for about 6 months and I had good weeks and bad weeks. So on my bad weeks, I would just like sleep. And then on my good weeks, I was still not feeling super great. And then with COVID too, I was pretty isolated. I didn't have like any immune system at all.
Wait, yes. Was that in 2020 that the diagnosis happened? Oh, yeesh.
Yeah. I moved home like maybe a month before COVID. So it all happened very quickly. But then when I was feeling well enough, I would draw and just kind of like pass the time.
Nice. So what was like the first thing? What was your first product? What was your first customer?
I made this little cancer sucks sticker. I didn't have an iPad. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just like doodling.
Microsoft Paint?
I did use Photoshop, but I was using like pen and paper and then like scanning it into Photoshop individually. I had a bunch of little plants and I printed 10 stickers total just to give to friends and family as like a thank you. And Lexi, a friend of mine, actually.
Our mutual friend, yes. Well, you introduced me to Lexi. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. She posted a picture of it on, I think, Instagram, and people started asking her where they could buy it. And so it grew very quickly within like one day. I had more orders than I could keep track of. So I opened an Etsy store. So it really wasn't like...
In a day, you're just like, oh, time to open an Etsy store.
Yes. Yeah. So it happened pretty fast, but it worked out well in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't mess around. So I had told Allana this. I'm now talking to everyone listening. So I was with Lexi today. Lexi and I swim once a week together. And I was like, Lexi, tell me some things about Allana, like some top secret. And top secret stuff. And Lexi's like, I was Allana's first receiver of a sticker and I posted it and then it got everyone hyped and then you're like, yep, I'm going to make a business out of this.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy. So you go on Etsy and then you start getting strangers to buy your stuff. Strangers, or is it like friends and family at this point?
It was friends and family, but also it was really interesting because I've never been someone to make like online friends. But when I had cancer and I was pretty isolated because of COVID, there was a really interesting like cancer community online. So those people were buying a lot of stickers from me. Wow. So it kind of was like those were my initial customers. A lot of what I did originally was all just cancer related stuff. So
yeah. I can relate to the online friend part because in 2020, I think like a lot of people made online friends. At least every friend I have in person is online, including you. Well, no, we met in person. But we chat online, just like on Instagram. But it is cool how throughout COVID, the panini, we call it the panini on here because I can't even bear to say it anymore. But that people created communities online. I'm like happy that there was something like that out there for you.
Yeah.
So then you do stuff far beyond cancer stickers. I mean, you have like the cutest little, like in front of us, we have these super cute strawberry and flower cups. Like, so you start selling on Etsy and then you're like, I'm going to get a booth. Right. But your booth, like from year one, looked awesome. So I feel like you started with a bang.
I tried.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. I remember I signed up for my first market. It was in Monona and the booth fee was $60. And I was like, I don't know if I can even make $60 at a market. Like, should I do this or not? And I took the risk because this was before I was really selling much at all, besides that initial cancer sticker. But I tried really hard and like put a lot of effort into it. And now I do markets almost every weekend.
That's wild. I mean, like at this point, you have hundreds of designs, right?
Yeah, I do.
And everything you sell is your own design.
Yes.
That's pretty insane because even in 2020, you had a lot of stickers.
I did. Yeah.
Like, how long do you spend just drawing every week?
A lot of time. It's definitely a full-time job, just doodling and drawing. And thankfully, I still find it really fun. So I'm always
That's what I was going to ask. Like, you genuinely enjoy the art process, or do you feel ever like commercializing it has taken away from the joy at all?
I don't think so. I try to make stuff that I would want to buy and like things that I'm excited by. And so that's kind of what I put out there. And I love seeing people react to my stuff. That's like one of my favorite things.
Yes. So. You mean like in person when they're looking, oh, that was probably me. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh. And then you have your deal. What was it? Like 3 for a certain amount of money or like 5. It's like a bundle pack. It's like, sign me up. My whole water bottle is filled with your stickers and on my laptop. And you have your sun catchers now. I mean, it's a whole thing, you guys. Anyway, so you're going to have to definitely check out her booth if you guys are in Madison or even all throughout Wisconsin. I know you're like all throughout Wisconsin. It's pretty fun, but you have your Etsy shop then too.
Yes,
so people can buy online.
Yes.
Which is bomb
for
our worldwide listeners. So you mentioned before that doodling is a full-time job, but you have a full-time job, correct? Like, right? Or do you have multiple jobs? Like, tell me about that.
I work part-time as an English language teacher. So it varies. The schedule is 8 weeks at a time at my school. So some sessions I have like 12 hours a week. Sometimes I have like 8 hours. Usually it's kind of in that range. So I get to do a little bit of teaching too, which is good for me because drawing is a very isolated job where I'm just always alone. So to go and teach and work with people, I really like that part.
Have you ever thought to like drop that? And because I mean, there's markets constantly, or with the demand of your job right now, is that a dream of yours?
I don't think so. Like I've thought about it a lot, but I really think that the balance that I have is good. If I can do something with ESL, it means a lot to me. I just love teaching and I love my students. I work with adults. So it's fun to make friends and it's something I'm also passionate about. So it's kind of nice to be able to do that on the side and then like invest all my free time into making new things and like my art and business.
So with your business, did you ever sit down and like make a business plan, or you're just kind of like rolled with the punches of people want things, so I'm making it?
I think my first year I was just rolling with it. I really didn't know what was going on the first year at all. I was kind of just seeing what happened. Now I'm trying to plan more. I think, I've definitely gotten more to the point where I can plan out a little further and seeing more clearly, like, where do I want this to actually go?
Yeah.
Versus like what's happening to me right now.
Yeah. Like being reactive or like proactive versus reactive.
Yes.
I feel that same way where it's like, for example, if I keep marketing my product, I'm constantly being reactive. So sometimes I like need to take a step back and think and journal. It's like, what am I working towards? So what do you think you're working towards with your business? Or you actually, I didn't even mention that apart from doing 10 by 10, you also started doing murals. So you're like expanding your, like you're going from digital to walls.
Yes.
Buildings.
Yes.
Like Shelby's bathrooms, soon to be my bathrooms at Tricky Foods. So yeah, what do you feel like you're working towards?
I think stability right now a little bit more, like figuring out what markets, because I do markets so often, like finding the ones that I really like and investing in time and energy into those and kind of just consolidating what I do. Because I just do so many different little things that I want to kind of find a more regular rhythm to my schedule because it does feel very scattered sometimes.
Yeah. Well, have you ever done or thought to do wholesale, selling to shops? Do you do that already?
A little bit, not a ton. I'm still kind of working on like how much can I make because a lot of what I sell, I make by hand. So figuring out like what's my capacity and then finding local wholesale or like retailers or people who can help me with like some of my shirts if I need to have a couple extra printed or something like that. So I'm just kind of figuring out like a good balance for like making as much as I can, and wholesale is hopefully a part of that long term too.
Yeah. So you like hand making, like you print all of your items in your home, right?
As of now, I do. Yeah.
Even the keychains?
Keychains, no.
Okay, that's the one thing,
There's
right?
certain things where it's, if I don't have the machine to make that, I have to outsource. But I try to keep it as minimal as I can because I want a lot of it to be like made by me.
So when you started this business in 2020, right off the bat, were you like, I'm going to start donating to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, like right off the bat?
Yeah, I was. I was actually going to donate 100% because I never was planning to have a business. I didn't really see it as something that I could do or wasn't sure if I wanted to. So I was thinking, I'll make this sticker, I'll donate all the proceeds, and then that's kind of it. But because I love drawing, I decided to do more. So originally it was 50% donated. And then I kind of modified it depending on the item so that I'm giving back as much as I like feasibly can, which I still have been doing.
Yeah. So when you say 50%, like 50% before you take out your costs or net gross? I don't know.
Well, when I first started my business, I didn't know anything about business. So I was like, 50% of, the total cost, not including the price of the item, the materials.
Yeah.
But I quickly figured out kind of like how to modify that so that I'm not losing money totally and, making it sustainable for me while also being able to be impactful and like give back as much as I can.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is the most up-to-date number, but so far you guys have given $10,000 plus, $10,000 plus. That is insane. And I know that you've been in 2 places at once, meaning you've had your booth up in some type of variation, correct? In 2 different places at the same time. So you have worked with a group is it UW where you're able to get volunteers?
Yes.
So where did that idea come from? How did you get plugged in with that?
I am a friend of one of the people who works for Wisconsin Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And so she's involved with UW LLS and kind of got me connected with them. And I was able to do some events where they're volunteering for me. And then at those events, it's 100% donated. So whatever I give them, if they can sell it, I'll just donate whatever the profit would be. And it's been really cool to work with them. I haven't been able to do so much lately just because like the summer market schedule is really crazy. So organizing it is difficult, but I'm hoping that maybe in the fall we can get like something rolling again with them.
I think it'd be interesting for those who don't understand like what market life is, like working at markets. Can we talk through, so I've done a couple markets selling charcuterie cups. Literally, it's the most jank looking thing. I'll just like you can rent the tents, from like the bodega, and then I'll bring my own table and then I'll have a cooler and I'm just sitting on it. I'm like, who wants a charcuterie cup? And like, of course, no one really ever does because it's like, here's my terribly put together booth. But your booth is like very well thought out. Can you talk through like what it's like to like lug all that supplies around and like set up day in, day out in the heat? Like, what do you think about that whole experience?
Definitely makes me question what I do.
I mean, honestly, I did like 4 markets and I didn't have the grit.
It's a lot
to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it gets rained out,
you never know what to expect. Even the markets that I've done 3 years in a row, they're always different. Like setting up is always different. The weather is different. They're very unpredictable. Yeah. And then sometimes they're back to back. So I actually, this September, I have 4 days in a row of markets. So it's just going to be wild where it's like pack up and then unpack and pack up, unpack. But the markets that I've been doing have been worth it. I've been meeting really amazing people and like, I'm just kind of finding the ones that work for me. So once we're set up, like I do really enjoy being there, even though it's a lot of work.
So I want to pivot a little bit and talk about like the actual design of your product. So it's very fun. They're very uplifting. They like put me in a good mood. You have your rainbow catchers. So for those who are watching the camera, look, you can see over there how it says sunshine. Is that like a giant rainbow?
It is.
Oh.
Yeah. It makes a lot of rainbows.
Oh, that sounds incredible. But Allana also has sticker versions. So like I have one on my window, which you told me to do. And so like then I always have rainbows in my house, which are on your Etsy shop.
Yes.
That's a plug, everyone. They're on her Etsy shop.
They are.
But your products, to me as a consumer, I feel like they're very joyous and light, and they just make me happy. I have them all over my water bottle. Where's your inspiration to making these types of designs?
I would say, so when I was living in Taiwan, I fell in love with the artwork there.
Really?
It's very cute. It's uplifting and joyous. I think I would use the same words that you use to describe my art, to describe like the stuff that I've found there. And one of my favorite shops was called 9x9, which is why my shop is called 10x10.
Wait, I didn't know it was called 9x9. I thought it had something to do with like, it was 10x10 feet.
No.
Wow, you just added a number and called it a day. Wait, that's wild.
Yeah, well, I figured, because I started my whole like cancer journey in Taiwan, and then my art is very much inspired by how cute those shops are and the stationery, and like I love the feeling of going to those stores. It makes me super happy and everything's really, really cute. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to create that feeling for people where like when they come to my booth, they're excited and everything's really cute and different, and just kind of making people happy.
Wow. So do the people in Taiwan know? Did you ever reach out and say, hey, like...
Well, it's a huge chain.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. In the city that I lived in Kaohsiung. And also, that's not like the name in Chinese. So it's different.
Okay, got
it's
it.
Translated. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's okay. It's not like the exact same name.
That's 100% on my bucket list now. I mean, I don't have any, plans to immediately go to Taiwan, but someday I'll have to check out that shop.
Oh, you would love it.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's the best.
I love those, like, even at, like at Francesca's, they have that cute little, what is it? What's the word? Knickknacks?
Yeah.
The cute little knickknacks, all those fun little things. I love those.
Yeah.
There's this website back in the day, and it was called Stumble Upon. Have you ever heard of it?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's the definition of just like a bored 14-year-old, but basically it's called stumbleupon.com, and you just click stumble and it takes you to different websites, and all the websites I would like select the ones that I wanted to see, and they would be all like art ones. So I'd see all these cool, like cute little funny products, like, or this is why I'm broke.com. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't.
Okay. I just sat on my computer like 8 hours a day when I was a homeschooled 14-year-old, and it would just have like the cutest little products. Like instead of, like a normal toilet paper holder, it'd be like, I don't know.
Shaped like a cat or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I remember I said I'd always had this dream to have all these fun knickknacks in my house, but like, now at the ripe age of 26, I'm just like, I want white everything in my house, but I love the pop of these fun, cute things.
Yeah. I was recently in Taiwan for a work trip for my school.
No way.
Yeah. So I got to go back, and I went to 9x9, the store that I'm like obsessed with, and it brought me the same amount of joy. Oh. And I was like, I hope this is kind of how people feel when they like see my stuff. That's my goal, is like to make people excited by cute things. I know I get excited by cute things.
Yeah. That's kind of wild. And it kind of makes me think about just the inspiration that comes from traveling, or, I mean, obviously going through a hard time. For me, like my business sprang from the panini happening and had just quitting. Like I had just quit my job. So I was like in a very bad state. Like I wasn't well. And like I decided to create, like that was my coping mechanism, was creating a business. But like traveling and seeing things is just like such a good way to get inspiration. And like it's also interesting because a lot of times I think people are like, I don't know what I want my business to be. I don't know what I want it to be. But it's like a lot of times people don't come up with ideas out of thin air. Like for me, I found my business, other people are doing it in different states, and I made it my own. And it, like you did that same thing. Yep. And thank God, because not everyone is, most people in this country are not going to Taiwan anytime soon. So like for you to bring that concept back is very cool. Wow, that must have been a wild feeling.
It was fun. It's on a much smaller scale. Those stationery stores are like 4 stories tall, and they just have like rows of pens and then a row of highlighters and like everything you could imagine. So I'm a much smaller scale, and I make different stuff too.
Yeah. So when you think of yourself, do you think of yourself, and it can be both, but do you think of yourself as more of an artist or more of a business owner? Because it could be both.
Oh, I don't know how to answer that. I feel like maybe artist, because I love to create things. Business is something I've had to really teach myself. Like I'm not a natural business-minded person. I think if I could just give my stuff away and sustain myself, I would. It's not like possible, but yeah. So I've kind of had to teach myself like how to create a business, whereas art is something that comes more naturally to me.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I ask because we had MK Drana on. She owns a business called Whisk Chick, which is cakes. And we're like, okay, so how are you going to scale your business? And she's like, I don't look at myself as a business owner as much as I look at myself as an artist. And like when an artist is like crammed for work, then they raise their prices. They don't increase supply. And so I thought that was interesting. But the nice thing about yours is you can print a lot, which is great. But like you have hundreds of designs. I mean, how do you even keep that all straight? Do you have a binder of like everything you've ever done?
No, I wish I did.
Oh man.
Yeah, I have a lot of like, I hold on to like my favorites, but there's so many things that I've made that I'm sure I've forgotten ever existed, like from the beginning of my business to now. And yeah, I think with markets, I've had to be a little bit more business minded because I have to think about like how much can I sell, which means like how much do I bring, and starting to think that way, how much can I print? And it becomes more of like a numbers thing than what design am I bringing today?
Yeah. It's kind of like, for me, I've always felt like I rise to the occasion, or like I do something like a market and I'm like, wow, I broke even / lost money. And, and then I'm like, okay, well, maybe if I change something, it will be better next time. And then I do it next time. I'm like, no, this just is not it.
I think it's also about finding the markets that are good for you too. Because I've done some markets where I leave and I'm disappointed. I did a market recently that was like really bad. Like a couple.
I'll have to get that offline. The name of that one offline.
I won't say the name, but
yeah,
there's certain ones where it's like, okay, that was disappointing. Whether it's like it was poorly organized or like people didn't come. But then I've found that for everyone that's bad, there's like 10 that are good.
Really?
So,
okay. So that's really interesting. And I've talked to like other business owners or prospecting business owners that want to start something. They're like, yeah, I don't even know how to like find the markets or get involved. Like, what advice would you have for anyone that wants to basically be like you and be like a market junkie? And
I think you have to try them all, because I think like I could say which ones are good for me, but they are not good for everyone. And then there's some where I go and I don't do well, and the person next to me said it was like their best day. So I think it's just, you have to go and try it. And it takes some time. And I'm still figuring out which ones are good for me and which ones aren't. I think you have to take the risk.
Yeah, there's so many. Oh gosh, I could go on a whole rabbit hole about markets because some are free or some like there's one market. Well, I wouldn't call it a market. I'd call it an event that I wanted to be at for a few weeks in a row. And it was thousands of dollars to be. Yeah. So, but a lot of people it was really good for. It's probably good, quote unquote, exposure. You know how we love that word. Okay, so to kind of like back it up and look at all the things what you're doing with your business. You're a market junkie, you're on Etsy. Those are like the two biggest things right now. But I know you recently started doing murals. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so this past winter, I did my first mural at Nitro.
Nitro Beverage Lab.
Yes, yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That is wild.
The owner, Courtney, I've known her for a little while through markets. So we were talking about it at a market, and I just followed up and asked if she needed someone to do her mural.
Oh, you're so good at that.
And she said yes. And I was pretty upfront, like I've never done a mural before. So she put a lot of trust in me. I'm so grateful for that. Like she gave me a huge wall and just like totally trusted me to be able to execute. I think she trusted me more than I trusted myself.
Oh, I mean, I trust you though. You're so organized. Like I've worked with you on other projects. I'm like, I could just say do whatever, and I know that you would do an incredible job. But so how did that process work? How does that work when you do a gigantic mural on a wall?
So for that one, Courtney kind of knew what she wanted, or at least like a general idea. So I gave her some digital drafts and we like refined it. And then from there, I went to go see the space. I was able to like trace it on the wall and then fill in kind of like color by number almost, where I just did like one color at a time. And the wall was way bigger than I had imagined. So the first day I went, I just looked at the wall and then I had to go home. Like I was just like, this is so big. I don't know if I can even process this right now. And then once I got rolling, it was really fun.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, That is such a cool painting. Did it look exactly how you had imagined when it was digitally done?
It did.
Oh, the power of digital. I mean, seriously, what did people do before that?
I don't know. I mean, like doing that freehand would have been even more difficult than it already was. So I'm very grateful that I was able to like draw it and draft it and make sure that she really liked it before I painted anything on the wall.
Mm-hmm. And how long does it take to do a full wall mural?
That one?
For your first attempt.
For my first attempt. I'm trying to think. I was there a lot, but it was only for like a week and a half or at the most, I think. It wasn't that long. I went at night and would just like paint through the night usually and get a lot done and then let it dry during the days.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And then you did Shelby's Bakery. And that was, well, you've done other murals besides Shelby's.
I did one other for my boss at my ESL school. So I painted her nursery, which was really fun. She has 2 really cute dogs. So they just sat there and watched me paint. And it was one of my favorite projects, I would say. And then I did Miggy's bakes.
Yes, her bathrooms.
Yes.
That was wild.
So it was fun. She asked me for disco bathrooms, which I never knew I would paint. I remember seeing that request and it like made me laugh because I was like, how did I end up here? Like,
yeah. No, seriously though. I'm like, but half the time I'm like, Shelby, how did you end up there with disco? But
I love it.
Yeah, that was definitely a new component when she started with the storefront. She's like, I want disco everywhere. I'm like, yeah.
Why not? Yeah, but it was a fun one. For that one, I painted the ceiling, which was really difficult.
With the disco balls, right?
I did disco balls in the back, and then I did like flowers on the ceiling for one of them and like kind of like a wave for the other one. Yeah. So it was really a good learning experience, and Shelby was so wonderful to work with, like so great. So
oh, good. Well, Shelby, if you're listening, just know we're talking good about you behind your back too. Another thing I almost forgot to mention when we were talking about markets, you're like, okay, there's some markets, there's some good ones, there's some bad ones. You've created your own market now. Can you tell us about the 10 by 10 collective, right? That's the name of it?
That is, yeah.
Yeah. Where did that idea come from? What is that all about?
It kind of came randomly to me, but the school that I work at, the Wisconsin ESL Institute, they are located in a historical building. It's a really, really beautiful space, and they host like events and weddings there. And so I was thinking how beautiful it would be for a market.
This is Ellsworth Block.
Ellsworth Block.
Yes. Got it. Right on the square. It's like hidden, but it's on the square.
It is. It's right above the old fashioned. There's like a little red door, and it's so pretty.
Is there even any signage for that place?
There's a little sign. It says EB for Ellsworth Block.
They like want to be secretive.
I think there's just no way to actually like advertise it. The old fashioned sign is right above the doorway.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a little secret place.
Yeah.
Once you know, it's like really nice, but so many people have walked in there and they're like, had no idea it existed at all.
Is this old fashioned?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think just like being there teaching, and I love the space. And so I asked if I could use it for a market, and they said, sure, for a super big discount. And then I got some vendor interest, like went to see if people would be interested in it, and they seemed to be interested. So I hosted one like a year ago in July. And that was quite
huge.
Difficult. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I forgot, who was I talking to? I mean, you had a lot of people applying to be vendors.
I
right?
did.
And you couldn't even have everyone.
No, which I was so surprised. I put it out there. I was really curious what would happen, and people seemed to be interested. So then I hosted it again this past November. But this past time I had a donation component. So all of the vendors were required to donate something to some cause of their choice.
Yes.
I didn't monitor like how much. Everyone did have to say where. But then after that, I was like, it's kind of the honor system, but I want everyone to feel like they're doing something and giving back in a way. So it worked out really well. I like was able to tally all of the donations, and it was like almost $4,000 from that market. So we're going to do it again in November. And this time Ellsworth Block just gave us the space for free.
Oh, wow. That's super nice.
So it's going to be a really cool event. And all the vendors will be donating. It's going to pretty much be like free for vendors. There's going to be like a tiny fee for promotion. And then, so that's kind of a fun project for me, just to build a community. Because I think so many markets, you just go and set up and then you don't talk to anyone and you go home. And it's kind of nice to go to a market and actually meet people and get to know them and get back.
And with the 10 by 10 Collective, even with the marketing of it, do you feel like you're attracting a similar group of people that your business is, or similar products? Or is it a mixed bag?
It's really mixed. I mean, there's people, I've done 2 collectives, well, 2 at Ellsworth Block and then 1 at Working Draft. Some of the same people have come to all of them. So I think it's kind of the market where if you like it, you probably love the feeling of like meeting people. And there's been a lot of reoccurring applications, which is nice.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
And I think it's really impressive that you have this component of giving back, because to be honest, like, you know, there's a lot of businesses, or not a lot of businesses. There's some businesses like you or Ice Cream Social, which is another business in Madison, and they're all about like giving back to specific causes or organizations. And that's not something that even really crossed my mind until probably year 3. Like, I always get requests for silent auction items, and I try my best to like give to those until we like reach a certain amount, like a budget, because I have to put a cap on it at some point. But it wasn't until like year 3 that I started thinking, okay, what are the organizations that I really want to partner with? Because I was saying yes to like everyone, like, oh no, like the organization where my dog has a sore paw, like, you know, I'm giving to everything. So I think it's really cool that you have made that a priority from the start.
Yeah.
And that must make it feel worth it, more worth it.
It definitely does. Yeah. I was really kind of blown away because this past fall, I was donating a lot to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. And so I ended up, my mom and I were their White Lantern honorees. And then 10 by 10 won like the Emerging Leader Challenge.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool to have like that one place that like I'm able to focus on. And it feels like, because it's just one thing, it's a huge organization, LLS, but being able to focus just on LLS means that it feels almost more impactful because there's more connections being made. And
well, now I feel like I need some advice from you on this. How does a business, because I think all businesses, like the point is to grow your business, of course, like be profitable. My mind's on like the business side, but then you want to give back to the world. Like all these big companies have certain missions that they're doing good for and advertising. And it's like, you know, good for both the business and for the people that are receiving that. What advice would you give to someone, me, about how do you decide what organizations to partner with? I mean, do you think that people should just choose one? Do they choose like 10? Do you have any thoughts?
I think because my business just, I never really thought about any other place to donate to. I guess I was thinking if I could do something more local, like I know my friend Justine at Happy Badger Headbands, she donates just to the UW oncology unit.
Oh, wow.
So that was something I was considering. But I think for me, picking an organization that like means a lot to people who've been through cancer like I have, that was kind of the route that I went. So I think picking something that means a lot to you, that would probably be like my advice, I guess. It wasn't something that I really had to think about for that. I think initially I decided to donate because so many people buying my stuff had cancer. And so I just felt terrible. Like I didn't want their money. Like I didn't want to profit off of, or just like purely profit off of it. So I was like, how can I do something that gives back where like I can sustain my business, but also like sell mostly to cancer survivors who like want the product, but I want them to feel like they're giving in a way too.
Yeah. It's hard for me because I've thought through all the different things I care about. I have like a list of 5 different things because I talked to someone this past year. So for example, this might, I'm kind of jumping around here, but so I was applying for grants for my storefront. And I felt like as I was applying, the things I was missing was like, okay, I've got this passion, I've got this drive, I've got these ideas, this mission, but like when I get there, who am I giving back to? And so I started thinking, I talked to someone and he's like, you need to choose a couple of things that you give back to, narrow it down, don't say yes to everything. So then I wrote down like 5 and I was like, well, what about these other 3? So now like I have it narrowed down to like 6 things, but I'm like, oh, I really want to make, more of a splash like you have. I think that's really important for businesses as they're growing to have some sort of mission to give back, because that's like to have that opportunity to even have a profitable business.
Yeah.
I think people should be giving back with it. But that's something that's a work in progress for me. But Shelby, I'm going to mention her because I like that she has one organization she always gives to. It's called Whisk Cares, and it's for, what is it for? It's like for animals, right?
I think so, yes.
Because her mascot, Miggy, is her dog. And so she always gives back to Whisk Cares for every event that she does. I think that's really cool. That's probably something I'll need to figure out in the next soon.
Sooner than later. Yeah, I don't know. I think like if it means a lot to you, then that's something that you could be giving back to. Like if it makes you excited. Even at the collective, people have been asked, like I've been asked that question where they
really,
like, where should I donate to? And I'm like, you have to choose. Yeah. I don't know. I can't tell you what you're passionate about or like what you care about, but it's kind of cool with those vendors where then I've had like a couple people say that they're going to continue it or like that was a great way to start and now they want to like implement that long term. So I think it is like a cool part of a business, even though as a small business owner, like we're like scraping to get by, but just like trying to do something to, give back to Madison or like our area in some way.
Yeah. Well, now you've got me thinking. I'm like literally thinking through this because I see how excited you are when you talk about, the collective and people giving back. I just think it's an honor to be able to give back in that way. So anyways.
Even if it's really small, I think that's another question that I've gotten from the collective, like, even if it's, at the end of the day, like $5, $10, like we all make different, profit off of markets and selling things. So it's not always like a huge number.
Well, that's good to hear too. Cause I'm like, well, if I can't make a huge splash, why make a splash or why make, a jump at all? But thank you. What gets you out of bed every morning?
When you say that, I think specifically of like market days where it's like really hard to get up.
Oh, really hard.
Yeah. Those are hard days because usually it's super early in the mornings that I have to like get rolling for those. I feel like for me,
coffee.
Yeah. It's number one, coffee. No, I think
she likes oat milk lattes. Was
that
an oat milk latte, right?
I do.
I forgot. Anyway, she likes oat milk lattes. So if anyone's going to the market,
if I ever look really tired,
you know what to do. Anyway, so that gets you out of bed some days.
Some days. I think it's like, for me at markets, when I meet people and like hearing their stories has been so uplifting for me. And sometimes it's also really sad. Like I think with my business and what I give back to, people share a lot with me.
Oops, that was me.
I could cry. Yeah, it's just so emotional because it's just so many people that like share things that they don't talk about usually with strangers. And I meet some really awesome people. So I think that's something that definitely gets me excited about like going out there and doing 10 by 10 and like selling things is that I get to meet some really incredible people. It's always like a lot to kind of process, but I'm like very, really grateful people feel comfortable when they like share stories with me.
Well, your presence is also very peaceful. As we were just talking about before we started recording, your Enneagram is peacemaker.
I'm a 9, yeah.
Yeah. So for those who know what that means, she's a peacemaker. That's the name of it.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I feel at peace. I mean, my gosh, look, I'm one of those people that started crying when I first met you. But yeah, you have a very like calming presence, almost like I'm safe to talk to. Talk to me. No, we talked about a lot of positive things. Obviously, your business is giving back. I mean, like, what's not to love? Do you feel like, though, have you ever flopped? Have you ever dealt with a customer that was like angry or like you made a mistake that you're like, oh my gosh, like this is just, I want to give up maybe? Or
I think I've talked a lot about markets. I'm not like, wasn't intentional, but I think that there's some markets where they're just not good. And they do feel like a flop to me where it's outside of my control. But, if you don't sell what you're expecting, or sometimes like the organizers aren't super kind. It's only happened like once in particular, or like a couple of times. But it's like every now and then those feel like a flop. And I think it's kind of like the same thing that gets me out of bed, where it's like those situations are made better because people have been so kind. And even at markets where it feels like it's a flop or like things aren't selling the way that I'm used to or would have expected, just talking with one person can make it feel so much better.
Yeah. I would say like when I'm thinking about my own busy season, because your busy season is in the summer. My busy season is in the holiday season, October, November, December. And sometimes, I think some people think I spring out of bed every morning to like cut cheese and stuff, which I don't even do most of the cutting of the cheese at this point. But like some of those days when I'd have to wake up, at the beginning, the first year, I'd go to bed at like 3 and wake up at 5 just to like start making boards because I was terrible with my time management. And I remember the only things that would get me out of bed, which I would like wake up, open up my crusty eye, and I would look at my bank account and I'd just be like, okay, a check just dropped. Like we can go. But I think it's important to mention that because like even though I'm pursuing my passion, you're pursuing your passion and something you're just like, you feel so connected to, it's not always easy to get out and you have to like put your focus on something else.
Yeah, it's not all like a success.
Yes.
I think, even some specific products, like sometimes I'll make something that I love and then I bring it to a market and no one likes it.
Really? No way.
Yeah,
Oh
there's a few where it's like, okay, that was definitely a flop. And then I'm just holding on to it forever.
Oh, man. Well, then you just have to make more content, I think, like Instagram content. Because I remember you would drop different designs of cups, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I love the way you dropped. You're like, which one do I drop today? And then you'd unwrap them. I'm like, this is so good. I'm like, you're so thought out and meticulous, I think the word is, the way I see it. So my last question for you is this. Do you feel like the success so far that you've had with growing your business, having your business, expanding into owning the collective or starting the collective, would you say that was more of a calculated, planned out thing or a screw it, let's do this type of mentality?
Probably more of a screw it, let's do this mentality.
Really?
I think, I like to plan everything, but initially like doing the mural, doing the collective, I didn't really know if it would be like either of those things. I don't know, like I'd never done a mural before. I'd never planned a market before. So I really wasn't sure what to expect. So I think it's maybe a combination of both where I like take the dive and like do something that I'm never done before, but then behind the scenes, I am planning it pretty meticulously to make sure that I can execute it.
Yes, you are super. Even when I was a part of the 10 by 10 collective last year, I think, to do like a charcuterie class, your communications were so planned out and you're like, this is the plan, this is the loading plan. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're just like I felt like very planned out, but I like that. The way you said that, where it's like, okay, screw it, let's do this. I'm going to go for this idea. You put it out there, but then it is kind of a grind to like actually make it work. You can't be like, half at it if you are actually trying to make something work out. And I think that's how most people are. They kind of put out there that they're going to do something and then the real work begins. So you started this whole business. This incredible business of yours came from a hardship, meaning your lymphoma diagnosis. Where are you now with that?
I'm in remission, so I no longer have cancer. Yeah.
Amazing.
So for a couple of years now, I was in remission. I think it was 2021 in November or something. 2021. Yeah. I should know the exact date.
Yeah.
But yes,
well,
I'm
your
in
hair
remission.
is so long and beautiful because I know you did go through a time where you had like little designs in your hair. That was amazing.
I did. I buzzed my head. And then
you did that yourself?
My friend did it for me.
Making art everywhere. Really. If you go on, for those listening, you can go on her website. What is that called? The website?
10by10gallery.com.
10by10gallery.com. And you can see on her About Me, she has a picture of her with your shaved head and a design in it. But anyway, so you're in remission as of 2021.
Yep. 2020.
Oh.
Actually, now that I think of it. Yeah, because I moved home and it was January 2020 when I was diagnosed. So it was like the very beginning of 2020.
Okay.
So when I think of it, it feels like it was longer, but it was 2020 still.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So for those who are listening that are in the cancer community and might be going through that right now, do you have any words of encouragement or something that you felt like really helped you during that time that you want to share with someone else that might be going through that?
It's a hard question. I feel like I was just like surviving day to day, but I think looking back, I'm really grateful for the people who were spending time with me and like keeping me safe during COVID. And I guess like finding little joyous things to do, like things that brought me joy. That was huge for me. So for me, it was drawing, and that's kind of why I ended up with a business. But I think there's so many different things that when you're stuck at home, like finding the things that bring you joy, even if they're really small, I guess that would be my advice. It's really different for every person. And I think it's like hard to talk about because everyone's cancer diagnosis and like story is very different, and how I reacted to chemo might be totally different than how someone else did. And so I think it depends on the person, but I've found a lot of comfort in doing something that I loved, even though it was like really small. I wasn't drawing every day. I was drawing like maybe once a day or like once a week, something like that. So,
well, thank you so much for sharing about your past, your present, and how can our followers support you in the future? What do you have going on next?
So this is my busy market season. So I'm going to be all over the place. I'll be in like Madison night markets. I'm going to be traveling a little bit for markets. I'll be doing the collective in November. So that'll be a really good market and like fun event for people to come to. I'll be doing some murals.
Yes,
as
you
well.
will. Love that. For me, she's talking about everyone.
Some new murals.
So stop by the Tricky Foods location to see her artwork soon in September.
Yes. And then I'm also going to be doing more online stuff. So like right now I only have sun catchers and like some small items online, but I'm going to be having glasses online soon and like apparel and stuff. So I've been wanting to do that for a long time, and I'm finally able to start moving in that direction a little bit more.
Ugh, that's great. And also I'll hopefully have some of your stuff in my store besides the mural, because me and Elena worked on making Valentine's Days, like cheesy Valentine's Day cards. So we have like, she drew a picture of like a chunk of Parmesan and it said, "You turn me Parmesan." Or like, I can't.
Gouda, you're
looking Gouda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, oh gosh, I sent you a list of like 50 things, and then we only made 4, but I'm thinking we just continue to add 4 every year, and then we'll have like a whole deck.
A whole collection.
Because like it will be so much easier with the storefront for people to come in and just buy one. We did it last year briefly, and people were buying them online, but then I'm like shipping them, and it will be way nice when we have them in person.
Have them on a shelf or something.
Yes. Oh my gosh, they'll be so cute to like add on.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to have a conversation offline about that. But cool. So you've got your markets coming up. You have your Etsy shop. And where can people find you online?
Right now I'm selling mostly on Etsy. Hopefully soon I'll be doing more on my website as I get things like kind of up and running. But for now it's 10 by 10 gallery on Etsy.
And what is your Instagram handle? How can they find you and follow your updates?
It is 10 by 10, 10 times 10 gallery.
10x10?
10x10 dot gallery.
10x10 dot gallery. Love that.
Yes.
And then the 10x10 dot collective?
Yes.
That was a good guess.
People get it confused, but it's okay.
They'll know. They'll know someday. It will be crystal clear. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you everyone for listening today. You can find the Screw It, Let's Do This podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Specifically, though, wherever you're listening, please give us a review. 5 stars, that's all we want. If you don't feel like doing 5 stars, just don't review. We'd also love if you would subscribe on YouTube. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we have a special surprise. I'm looking at all the cameras right now. Surprise for you guys. And Shelby and I have already been talking about the surprise. So get us to 1,000. We are 25% of the way there. Keep it going. And you guys, you can find me at Tricky Foods. You can find Shelby. She's Make Believe next to me at Miggy's Bakes. And you can find us on Instagram at Screw It, Let's Do This. Other than that, we'll see you guys all next Wednesday. And thank you, Elena. Everyone follow her on Instagram. Visit her at the markets and bring her oat milk lattes.
Thank you.
We'll see you next Wednesday, everyone. See ya.